Avi, it's so great to connect on the podcast. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you, Nate.
I first learned about your work from an interview I did a while ago with Nate Pettit, and a most amazing experience he had that he described where he thought he was dying and was in the hospital and had an amazing experience where somebody listened to him and was able to help him basically solve his problems just because they listened to him. And he credited you and your work with some of the uh, impact that it had on him. Because of that interview, I do an exercise in my class with listening. And so I've wanted to interview you for a while now. So I'm grateful that you can come on the podcast today. And I would love to hear from you as you have done a lot of research on listening. What lesson have you learned about listening that you would most like to share with others?
Um, my gut reaction, it can save your life. It saved my life twice.
Wow.
Um, the I will start with the end. Um, I have three children. My middle child at the age of 29, half a year ago, committed suicide after 16 years of struggle with mental health issues. And I feel that the listening community that I created myself and the friends that I had around helped me get up from the morning, resume my life. And it's not that I don't have deep pain and sorrow here and there, but in between I'm able of enjoying the rest of my life, the rest of my family, my work and other things. And I attribute it to outstanding listening. And I want to give you one of the most powerful things that happened to me. Um, After the ceremonial morning ended, uh, my wife and I came back from the uh, cemetery, and I said to her, I'm going to go out to the woods to take a walk. And what I had in my mind is to look for type of crocuses that show up in the fall in Israel. They show after the first rain, like opposite of what you're used to. And to remind me that after the dry summer, we have rain in the fall, in the winter, life comes back, and there are uh, pink, whitish, low flowers. And I was looking for them, and I found some, and I started to cry. And I called a friend of mine from the Global Listening Movement. It's a movement we co-created with other people. Corinne Janssen from the Netherlands. And I told her, I talked to her, and she said to me after a minute or two, uh, Avi, if I'm not crying, would you mind sharing with me your last day with your daughter? And I did share with her. And I cried bitterly. I think I was sobbing such that people could hear me from hundreds of yards away. But then the storm ended, and I thanked her. And then she said, Avi, well, I'm having tear in my eyes again. She said, I want you to know that if you need to tell these stories 100 more times, I'm here to listen. Just as you told me now, if you need to tell it again and again. And what happened is that I felt as if my shoulders are becoming wide again. I can walk erect back home with the sorrow, but with a feeling of strength and connection and purpose. And that was an amazing experience, one out of many that I had in the days and the weeks after my daughter passed away. So I definitely attribute to my listening community um, saving my life because I see here in Israel there's a lot of tragedy happening, and how many people just lose a younger person in the family and they don't return to be themselves. And I feel lucky that I got my life back with the pain. I don't remember if this morning or yesterday morning I was alone at home and found myself talking aloud to my daughter, calling her to come back or telling her how painful it is. I'm not denying the pain. I'm saying that he can live happy with the pain and enjoying my grandchildren and enjoying um, things that I do. So this is one time that listening saved my life. Um, and the other time is when I realized what listening is all about. About 20 years ago, I uh, was introduced to appreciative inquiry, and I was really moved by being asked questions to tell my partner in exercise about a moment at work during which I felt full of life. And I told such a story, but the story was 5 years old and I knew it. And I became very sad, realizing that I'm working for 5 years on trying to prove that Tversky and Kahneman are wrong, not because I cared about it, just because I wanted to impress my peers. And that I was suffering on a day in and day out on something that I don't care about, just to prove a point. And then I realized that I'm not happy, not only at work, I'm not happy, period, in my life, not with my family, not with my friends, anything. And I started with appreciative inquiry, starting to inquire about appreciative inquiry, positive psychology, and other things. And within 3 years, I've tried so many things in a self journey that included 1 year of storytelling classes, 1 year of psychodrama, voice classes, Zen Buddhism, something in the US called performing the world. If you want to change the world, don't talk about it, just act, play it the way that you want it to be. And I cannot count as many things that I tried and I was involved in. And within 3 years, I was deeply changed to the degree that my wife said that my voice changed, my physical voice. And former students ask, where is the arrogant professor in the tie and suit? What happened to him? And in these 3 years, memories came back to me that um, were closed up in me for 40 years as if I didn't remember them. First, memories of a father who was a Holocaust survivor who beat me so badly as a child that memories came back that I didn't care if he would kill me. I told myself, you can do whatever you want. I don't care. And then worse memories, broken memories showed up of a babysitter that touched me in a way that a babysitter shouldn't touch a young boy. And I know who this woman was, but I didn't pursue it. Like it's all broken memories. But with those memories coming back, with a lot of crying and 1 year of I was barely able to sleep. Um, Something in me released, and I felt not only other people saw it, like I felt a new journey, a new direction in life. And I asked myself, what made it possible? And I saw the commonality between all of the activities that I had is that there was somebody to listen to me and perhaps to touch me, to listen to me and touch me, um, hug me. And then I decided that the appreciative inquiry, the storytelling classes, the voice classes, all of it was somebody listening to me. So then I decided to dedicate the rest of my life to three goals. First, to improve my listening every day a little bit more for the rest of my life. So, and this is after 17 or 18 years that I'm on this journey, I can tell you that I still feel as a beginner, and there's no week goes by when I don't scold myself and said, "Oh, you missed an opportunity, you jumped too fast." And people would say, some people, but many people, not all, will say that I listen very well. But I learn how much there is to learn. That this is, and whenever I improve it, I have a great sense of connection being created with whomever I do create it. Um, Including finding new way of communicating with my wife of 35 years now, um, even after the passing away of our daughter, and finding better ways to listen to her. That was very hard at the beginning. Um, so that was my first decision. The second one was that I want to know what is known about listening, to join the community of researchers promoting it. And the last one is that I want to learn how to do interventions, how to bring it, how to teach it to other people. And since I made those decisions, I stuck with them. They keep feeling the right thing for me. I'm 67 years old this summer. I will be this summer. Feel this is right. It gives me direction for the next 30 or 40 years uh, of what to do. And well, this is a long story for a quick question.
Well, thank you, Avi, for sharing something so meaningful and something that would be the most difficult thing I think any parent could ever experience.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. And before we hit record, I was talking and one of the first things you said to me was no rush. I have a tendency to speak fast. I think you were feeling it, and I just appreciated you already implementing these goals that you have to listen and we had some back and forth before the show started that was longer than most of the kind of pre-show dialogue because you were just listening. I am especially curious about what you have learned about listening in terms of what people do wrong and how we can improve it.
I want to separate these two questions. They're two separate things, what they do wrong and what can we do to improve it. And my take of it is not to worry about what people do wrong. We do so many things wrong. So, um, but rather finding ways to bring people to positive experience of listening and let them figure out on their own what they do wrong. So, uh, in my listening training, which is between 50 to 80 hours, depending on context, um, usually like session of 3 or 4 hours at a time, um, I start them with something called, would you please tell me a story about, and series of stories. I exchange them in a room. And what happens, uh, just a little question that I ask you uh, before, what's the potential meaning of your or origin of your name, Mikkel? Um, and just by doing it, let people ask a question. Could you tell me a story about your name? It could be your first name, your last name, for 2 minutes for each side. Um, what happens is that when people talk about their identity and they talk about interesting stories, they make the other person a good listener. So as an instructor, I don't have to go around class and use my pointing finger and said, "Oh, you didn't listen." I don't, I try to avoid it altogether. To work, if you want scientifically or to think about promotion focus, for learning rather than prevention focus. Not what to do, but what to desire to replicate that you have experienced in my classes or other places. So this is one thing that I've learned. So you asked about the thing we do wrong and what we can do to intervene. So I'm leaving what people are doing wrong to reflections that they do at the end of every class and ask, what did you learn today? And then people would say, I don't listen to my kids. I now realize it. They said, it's not me. I don't have to show my finger. Now they realize that a pain that they have in their life and they want to correct it. Or a manager saying, wow, I have a secretary for 3 years. I want to do an exercise with her. I was wondering why she leaves early. Every Monday she just disappeared. I thought she's just goofing off. Then I went to listen to her because this is what you ask us to do. And I realized that she has a retarded sister, and she and her siblings are sharing. Um, oh, it's not the common word now, like a person with mental disability. I don't know. Uh, Whatever you call people with low IQ. Um, at any rate, he realized that she's so dedicated to help her sister survive, and he changed by 180 degrees the way he think about her. So I didn't teach him anything. I just said, do an exercise, try something that you enjoy in the class, and let's see what happens. And this is my approach to intervention, is to engage people with experiences that are extremely positive and sending them out to try it out in their lives with their spouses, for example, the exercise we talked about just before about being silent for 2 minutes or more. I asked them, okay, find a person who you find it hard to listen to and tell them, I'm going to listen to you today for 5 minutes and I'm going to shut up and I'm not answering you today. I'm taking my time to think about what I've heard. Only tomorrow I'm allowed to respond.
Mm.
And so I sent people to do the exercise, and one person writes, well, I did it with my wife of 18 years, and I told her I'm going to listen for 7 minutes. And I was stunned that in 7 minutes, she was able to tell me things I didn't let her say for 18 years.
Wow.
So they're coming with, what am I doing wrong? I don't tell people what they're doing. I'm trying not to tell people what they're doing wrong. I fail, but I'm trying. Um, yeah, but then maybe it will come to the theory that uh, after publishing a paper with Guy Tzchakov in an annual review of psychological, what is it? Um, sci- I forgot the name of the journal, a paper from 2022, and also a paper about defining listening with Moran Mizrahi from last year. Um, I realized that the thing is, the listening is only a tool. It's one of the many tools we have to create a magic space between two people. Now, no superstition, no, like when I mean by magic moments between two people, I mean an encounter in the language of the philosopher Emmanuel Levinas, or an I thou in the language of the philosopher Martin Buber, moments of connections that people co-create, either mutual understanding, they created a new understanding, and it could be of psychological issues, it could be of completely technical issues. It doesn't matter, but they co-create in this space something that no one in their thinking alone could ever do. So those magic moments, and maybe I need better definition than magic, but an extremely powerful meeting of minds where people are really immersed and they're transposed from whatever reality they were before to the meeting. They are in the meeting. And this is a space, like invisible space between two people. It could happen in a group in which I think the positive changes in person and in society happens. That's where we grow because ideas and meaning are being created in this space that requires psychological safety so people talk their truth and things co-emerge. So this is my goal, like how to create things like that. So one way to do it is to listen, but that's not the only one. As I told you about stories, if I share a personal story and I'm willing to take risks, that what would you think about it? What type of a father I am that knew his daughter is in trouble and yet she died. Um, so if I'm willing to do that, I'm also helping to co-create a safe space in which new knowledge and new understanding is being co-created, both for myself and others. For example, when you mentioned that this is um, might be one of the hardest thing a parent has gone through, you allowed me to feel the pain in my heart. You served me uh, while sharing your experience. And this idea that we need the others for all the meaningful thing in life, we need the other. And so this is what I'm scientifically trying to crack. What is it that creates the meeting of the minds? And it's very important for me to emphasize, like nowadays, I learned it to do only in the last few years when I work with colleagues or former students, and they disagree with me. I learned to stop and say, "Can you clarify and tell me more?" Until I they feel we are both agreeing that I understand what the issue is. And then we start to think, and typically this co-create new knowledge, new direction that does several things. First, it makes the work so pleasant, so exhilarating. So like I would say the few times a week I have the luxury of being in such a space. And second, it creates ideas that are so much better than anything I could dream I could do alone in my life.
You've given me so much to think about already, Avi, and I want to be sensitive to your time, especially because these interviews tend to be pretty brief. I'm excited. I've got so many thoughts. What a great goal you have set to dedicate every day to becoming a better listener. And I want to do that same thing. Where would you suggest people go to start learning more?
Um, those in New Jersey should look for a friend of mine that does something called a listening cafe, just to experience such an evening where people just listen to each other. Um, I have an R&R paper with many of the exercises in the appendix.
Hmm.
So people can write to me, people can look up my homepage. I can share with people a whole program I created for the Serbian government, uh, full of exercises and the logic of this exercise and the rationale that is now being tested in a field experiment by my trainees. My trainees trained some people, and a control group was measured without their training.
Wow.
And we're going to see soon how it affected the listening of the trainees of my trainees. Um, so I'm willing to share that. I guess in the next year things will be published with, but before that I can share them on a personal basis. Um, and um, we might think about co-creating some events as I'm planning to come in the fall to the US. So we could think about whatever, like to create a place where I can demonstrate for half a day, a full day, to whomever is interested in things like, uh, yeah, I can refer you to paper by Rechter et al. From 2025 on my feed forward interview, which is another tool of listening at work. So it has a protocol that people can follow and all the rationale. Yeah. So there are a few things out there.
Okay, that's great. I'm going to dig in. One of the reasons I was so excited about this interview is because I have been doing now in my undergrad class an exercise that came to me through Nate Pettit from you that you got from somewhere else as well. And it's so powerful. It's the listening exercise. It's a listening exercise where people just sit and listen. And one of the students, so when I do the exercise, after we do it, we debrief and I have everybody share something they learned. And it's powerful. And one of the students said, I think it's been a couple months since anybody really just listened to me, since I really talked to anybody. And it felt so great to be able to talk. And it's just there's the part of you that's like just gut wrenching that the student doesn't have anybody to listen to him. But basically, every person shared something that was valuable about how the exercise had helped them. So I have experienced just a little bit of how powerful this can be, these exercises can be. But again, I love your goal of trying to get better every day. I'm going to set this goal. I'm going to dig in. I'm going to learn more, and I'm going to think about some sort of event we can create. I'm teaching online in the fall, and so I have some flexibility with travel or whatever. So I'll be thinking about that. We can be in touch. I want to say thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm so grateful that you would open up and share something that is so important to you. So thank you, Avi.
Nate, before we depart, I have a few more minutes if you do have. I have more questions for
Great.
you.
I have time.
From all this interview, all this meeting, what was the high point for you?
Opening up about your daughter's suicide is really touching that we've only known each other for a few minutes and to share something so personal, that's touching to me. And how you described how that creates a kind of magic space and environment that allows us to talk about things that we wouldn't talk about otherwise. That was touching. One or another thing, learning about how you are applying the things you're teaching. So the way we started the conversation before we hit record, you asking me about the origin of my name. I thought that was, it's always great to see people applying the things they're teaching. But the thing that one of the biggest takeaways for me is this goal you've set to be better, and that just struck me like I want to be better, and so I'm going to try to make this a goal, and I'm going to read up and learn a lot more about this. So for me, this is one of the biggest takeaways. Is I'm excited to try to start practicing this.
I want to leave you and perhaps your listeners, if you set up this goal, I'm sharing from my own experience, there will be a lot of failures. And I learned to tell myself anytime that I catch myself in a failure to say, oh, you're a good boy. You paid attention this time to the failure. This is part of the journey because else, it, it's going to be extremely painful when you start to pay attention to how poor we are in communicating or really supporting a growth space for both us and others. It's challenging. It's bound to fail. So every moment of awareness, I count it as a one step in the right direction, despite the failure.
That's great. I mean, we were bad before cell phones.
Yeah, well, yeah, we were bad then too. I don't think that, yeah, I'm looking at what Carl Rogers was writing 70 years ago, recognizing how most people listen with the goal to judge the other person rather than with the goal to understand.
Interesting. Great advice as I go down this journey, and I'm sure other listeners will as well, to just if when we mess up, view it as a good job. We're progressing.
Right, right.
Okay. Thank you so much, Avi.
Thank you, Nate.